Today, breaking news: Eastern Europe is once again holding its breath as the spotlight turns sharply toward Belarus, a country that for years stayed in the shadows of bigger powers, but is now becoming a central factor in a conflict that continues to reshape the global order. What is happening around Belarus is not loud, not dramatic on the surface, but deeply unsettling beneath it. For months, military analysts, intelligence agencies, and regional governments have been quietly watching Belarus. Satellite images, troop movements, joint drills, and political statements all point toward a shift that could change the balance of power in Eastern Europe. The Belarus factor is no longer theoretical, it is real, active, and increasingly dangerous. Belarus sits at a critical crossroads between Russia, Ukraine, NATO members, and the wider European Union. Geography alone makes it important, but politics and military alignment make it explosive. Since the start of the Ukraine war, Belarus has transformed from a silent partner into a strategic platform with consequences far beyond its borders. The Belarusian government maintains that it is not directly at war. Official statements emphasize defense, sovereignty, and stability, but actions tell a different story. Airfields, rail networks, and training grounds inside Belarus have been used to support Russian military operations. This reality has not gone unnoticed in Kiev or Brussels. Ukraine views Belarus not just as a neighbor, but as a potential second front. Even without a single Belarusian soldier crossing the border, the threat alone forces Ukraine to divert troops, air defenses, and resources northward. This weakens other fronts and stretches an already exhausted military. From the Ukrainian perspective, Belarus represents uncertainty, and uncertainty in war is often more dangerous than a known enemy. A sudden move, even a limited one, could trigger rapid escalation. This is why Kiev's leadership speaks carefully but prepares intensely. Russia, on the other hand, sees Belarus as a strategic depth zone. It provides buffer space, logistics routes, and political legitimacy for joint actions. The alliance between Moscow and Minsk has deepened, especially in military coordination. Joint exercises are no longer symbolic. They are practical rehearsals. Western intelligence reports suggest that Russian forces stationed in Belarus can be activated quickly. Equipment is pre-positioned, command structures are aligned, communication systems are integrated. This level of preparation does not happen by accident. Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko walks a careful line. Internally, he must maintain control over a population that is not universally supportive of deeper involvement in the war. Externally, he depends heavily on Russian economic and political backing. This dependence limits his room for maneuver. Lukashenko's statements often sound contradictory. One day he speaks of peace and mediation. The next day he warns of threats from NATO and Ukraine. This dual messaging creates confusion, which itself serves as a strategic tool. NATO countries bordering Belarus are increasingly nervous. Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia have strengthened border security. Military readiness levels have been raised. Surveillance flights and intelligence sharing have intensified. For NATO, the Belarus factor is not hypothetical. It is a live risk. Any miscalculation near Belarusian borders could spark a wider confrontation. A stray missile, an airspace violation, or a misunderstood exercise could escalate faster than diplomats can react. History shows that wars often begin not by intention, but by error. The European Union is also watching closely. Sanctions on Belarus have already damaged its economy, but further involvement in the war could trigger even harsher measures. This would isolate Belarus further, pushing it even deeper into Russia's orbit. Inside Belarus, the economic situation is fragile. Trade routes have shifted, foreign investment has dried up, ordinary citizens feel the pressure through rising prices and limited opportunities. War involvement would only worsen these conditions. Despite this, the Belarusian military continues to train intensively. Drills focus on air defense, rapid deployment, and coordination with Russian units. These are not the preparations of a country expecting peace in the near future. One of the biggest fears in Eastern Europe is the deployment of advanced weapons systems in Belarus. Reports about nuclear-capable platforms and long-range missiles have raised alarms. Even the possibility changes strategic calculations across the region. For Ukraine, such deployments would mean shorter warning times and increased vulnerability. For NATO, it would require adjustments to defense postures and deterrence strategies. For civilians, it would mean living under a darker shadow. Diplomatic efforts continue behind closed doors, messages are passed through intermediaries. Warnings are delivered quietly. The goal is to prevent Belarus from becoming fully engaged, but diplomacy competes with pressure, fear, and alliance obligations. Russia's influence over Belarus cannot be overstated. Energy supplies, loans, security guarantees, and political support all bind Minsk to Moscow. In times of crisis, this relationship tightens rather than loosens. Yet Belarus is not Russia. Its leadership understands that direct involvement in the war could provoke internal unrest. Past protests have shown that stability is not guaranteed. The memory of mass demonstrations still lingers. This internal risk may be one of the strongest brakes on Belarusian action. A war that brings casualties home could shatter the fragile social contract that keeps the current system in place. Still, war logic does not always follow domestic logic. External pressures can override internal concerns. If Moscow decides that Belarus must play a larger role, Minsk may find it difficult to refuse. Eastern Europe as a whole feels the tension. Markets react to rumors, energy prices fluctuate, military planners revise scenarios. Ordinary people sense that something is coming, even if they cannot name it. The media landscape adds to the anxiety. Conflicting reports, propaganda, and disinformation create a fog that makes it hard